Good evening. Welcome back to our second segment of the Glazov Gang, and we have three titans here with us. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you.
Larry, Bob, and Howard.
By the way, I just want to clarify, I heard that I can check out, but I can never leave. Is that true?
You know what? I'm so happy you brought that up because I have a hard time with that every show. All three of you are new. There is a rule on the Glazov Gang, and you know about it. Tell everybody.
Well, the rule is that you can check out, but you can never leave. My interpretation is...
But first say where you know that from. What's the song?
Well, Hotel California.
Excellent.
By the Eagles.
Okay, go ahead.
I interpret that as, I had this long flight here because
just to be on the
flights
Glazov
were
Gang.
canceled out of Washington, D.C., where I came from. And
you're
I figured
flying here just to be on the Glazov Gang.
Actually, I am. Truth is, and some other stuff, but mostly.
Yeah, but mostly the Glazov Gang.
And I figured that I am so exhausted that at any time I can just stare blindly into the camera, and you won't ask me to leave. That's my interpretation.
But gentlemen, it's a good interpretation.
Okay.
Gentlemen, you can check in, you can check out,
you can never leave.
but you can never leave.
So
okay?
all those who have ever appeared on the Glazov Gang are fellow gangsters.
Exactly, and they're members for life,
Good.
okay? Gentlemen, the sequester, Americans suffering, being hurt, because the Obama administration and Obama did not want to make a compromise to have at least some cuts. I don't know if that's a wise interpretation, but we can get into that. But while Americans are being hurt in these ways, the administration finds it an opportune time now to hand money over to the Muslim Brotherhood and to some very questionable opposition forces in Syria, which we know are interconnected with Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda, etc. What is going on with Obama? John Kerry just announced they're giving $250 million to Morsi, and then it's going to be followed by another $750 million, etc., if certain economic reforms or something are accomplished. But I'm a little bit skeptical about what that money is being used for, etc. But all in all, money is going into the hands of the Muslim Brotherhood coming from America and its American taxpayers. Your thoughts on this? Let's begin with Howard.
It's just weird. I mean, you have several $1 million going to the Syrian rebels, which, we may agree or disagree with that on certain points, but at least it has some kind of sense about it. Yeah, we're supporting one side against the other in this conflict. But then you have $250 million that's going to Morsi's government for what again? For them to get their economic policies in the right way so that they can get a $4 billion loan from the IMF if they're on good behavior. I mean, what are we asking them to do in return for that money? Implement socialized health care? I mean, they're supposed to do something with their domestic economy to please us for our $1 billion.
Absolutely, Howard. And look, it's scandalous, and that's an understatement, what Bob was saying in our last segment. Look, Obama betrays the Iranian people. He's betrayed so many people. And he tells Mubarak he's got to go because there's demonstrators in the streets. But then when there's demonstrators in the streets, when Morsi makes himself a tyrant, not one word from the administration. This is in the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. They've got rape gangs running around using rape as a weapon against dissent, turning it into a Sharia state. It's just horrifying, and Obama is actually treating them as an ally and empowering them. Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. It's frustrating. It's more than frustrating. I think it borders on immoral. I think there ought to be some criteria, some specific criteria, human rights criteria, relations with Israel criteria, before they can get this money, and not just promises, because we've seen that promises can fall apart. And I'll also say that I think Obama is responsible for what's happening in Egypt because of any Arab or Middle Eastern country, we had the best relationships and the most influence on Egypt. And I think that what should have happened is when the protests started, the Arab Spring in Egypt, we could have gone to Mubarak. Obama could have gone and said to him privately, guess what? You're going to hold free elections. You're going to step down over the next 3 to 6 months. Go to the military and say, if you want to keep up your lucrative contracts with the U.S., you're going to support these elections, but you're also going to force the Muslim Brotherhood not to participate, which they've done for a decade, so it's not a problem. It's not like they had a moral obligation to include the Muslim Brotherhood. And we could have had elections without the Muslim Brotherhood, very smooth transition at our pace. And instead, Obama does the most ridiculous thing possible. He publicly calls for Mubarak's removal and then at first doesn't do anything and later supports the Muslim Brotherhood.
A great betrayal, and thank you very much. And by the way, a compliment, fantastic tie. I'm wearing a tie, and the other two guests, for some reason, are not wearing a tie.
I think if you're influential enough, you don't need to dress up. Well, except for you. You're very influential. That came out wrong. I was trying to make a compliment for these guys.
Larry, your thoughts on Obama dancing and romancing the Muslim Brotherhood?
Well, he's comfortable with the Muslim Brotherhood. He went to Cairo in Egypt and talked about better relations with dictators and tyrannies. We had relationships with Mubarak. The relationship with Egypt should be null and void now that they have a tyrant in Morsi. But Obama is sending him F-16s and Abrams tanks. I would like to underscore what was already said. We don't condition our aid to Pakistan or the Palestinians or the Egyptians, or apparently now the Syrian rebels, which includes Al-Qaeda. And finally, I'd like to say, at $17 trillion and growing in debt, check your wallet, check your paycheck, check your bank account, because some of that money has got dictators and tyrants who oppress Christians in Africa and the Middle East on it. They say there's a sucker born every minute. In America, apparently, babies born are suckers because they're all born with a $60,000 and growing debt attached to their birth certificate.
Frightening times. And another frightening thing is, gentlemen, the way that the Obama administration just keeps spending, how do you not know this is going to lead to a collapse? How do you not know that letting the Muslim Brotherhood into power in the Middle East and even penetrating Washington is not going to lead to serious problems? Before we go on, very quickly, is it complete stupidity and naivete or a destructive intent on the part of the president and the people surrounding him? Howard?
I wish it were complete stupidity and naivete. I fear that it is worse than that.
Destructive intent?
I don't think Obama wants to destroy America. I think it's just happening because of his policies.
I think that he absolutely wants to build an America that he loves on the ashes of the ones he hates and wants to destroy. Larry?
Well, I agree with that. He's a leftist and an ideologue. He was trained at the feet of Frank Marshall Davis and mentored by Rashid Khalidi and William Ayers and Edward Said, and went to socialist conferences at Columbia, and basically wants to tear down the America that was and rebuild an America in the dream of what, being an equal partner to every country in the world, America not leading but leading from behind, and changing America, transforming America is what he said he wants to do.
They're going to collapse the system. And then that makes me so sad, because when he talks, even when he was getting into power the first time, when he said, you know, we're this many days away or something from transforming, you know, for a person that's from the former Soviet Union, from tyranny, I'm mind-boggled. Why do you want to change the most beautiful experiment in the history of the world, the most beautiful country on the face of the planet? Howard.
Sir.
Are we going to be able to pull the plug on Obamacare? Tell us a little bit about your pamphlet. Hey, look, Congress has passed it. The Supreme Court upheld it. Obama's reelected. There's a Democratic majority in the Senate. How can we still defeat Obamacare?
Well, number one, we have to, because this is the mother of them all. Okay, the sequester is nothing. The fiscal cliff is nothing. The coming bankruptcy of Social Security is nothing compared to the calamity that is going to befall the United States as a result of trying to implement Obamacare, the most massive social program ever attempted in this country. And we have to. It's fraudulently conceived. It was sold on faulty, completely bogus premises. You know, America's healthcare system, for all its problems, is still the best that yet exists in the world. It's destructive. I mean, companies now have to find out how much, not only how much money you make, but how much money your wife and your kids make in your household, in order to categorize you in the proper affordability category, so that they can provide you the right health care plan or pay a penalty. And even if they try to provide you with the best health care plan, they can still be fined if you decide to shop on one of the state exchanges anyway, because that shows to the HHS, who's now in charge of everything that your doctor does and everything that you do, that your employer is not providing for you adequately.
Howard, I'm sorry that we
Sure.
have to be so brief in terms of something that you put so much time into, and something that obviously takes a lot of time to explain. However, very quickly, what's going to happen to the United States if Obamacare is successfully implemented?
Well, just look at the track record, okay? Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, these programs are all already on their on track for bankruptcy in a decade's time, and this is now the most multiplied by 10 or more ambitious social program. It's only going to be much worse.
Howard, how can Americans stop it?
Well, some people need to read the Constitution again, okay? And that includes Republicans, because yes, there's a Democrat majority in the Senate, and Obama took the White House again, but we do have the House. We have constitutional checks and balances and separation of powers. We have the House, and we have the state houses. We have the state mansions. And if the Republican governors would stop preemptively surrendering, we might yet have a chance of holding back the tide, while we use the arguments that are in my book and in Sally Pipe's book and in Betsy McCowie's book and the others that you'll see on the bibliography at hhcapitalism.com.
Okay.
We can still do it. We can still talk to our fair weather friends on the left or in the middle, who never thought that the rising costs and the deteriorating quality was going to hit them personally.
Okay.
They thought they were just doing a good thing for their fellow man.
Thank you, Howard. And ladies and gentlemen, go to hhcapitalism.com, hhcapitalism.com, and you will find at that site Howard's new book, Pull the Plug on Obamacare, a citizen pamphlet, and you can make a change. Bob, how do you see this?
Well, I think Howard's got a really strong argument, and I read your article about comparing it to 1776, right? As far as a revolution against Obamacare. My fear, though, I have to be completely honest, is that my understanding is that Social Security had the same kind of resistance we're seeing today to Obamacare when Social Security was first introduced. And I'm afraid that once you've done something like this, and there was some effort to overturn it, and the Supreme Court, obviously a big disappointment to a lot of us, the Supreme Court decided that it was constitutional. At this point, trying to overturn it, or something
that they reimagined was constitutional.
And the thing is, overturning it now looks more and more like taking something away from people. And unfortunately, people don't like to have stuff taken away. Before it went into effect, it was easier to destroy. Now that it's going into effect, it's going to be very, very hard.
And gentlemen, almost every window we look through, disasters on the horizon with the Obama administration in power. It's just very frightening, scary times. Larry, on Obamacare, maybe pulling the plug?
Well, it's already not working. Premiums are up for Americans to purchase health care. Doctors are retiring. And the dream of having personalized health care. The future, the 21st century for Americans is the opportunity to work with your doctors and anticipate possible diseases. Even in the clothes you wear, they can have techniques to sniff out early signs of disease or cancer. All that collapses. Medical devices are going to be specially taxed. And so those jobs and innovations and products and services will go abroad. Ronald Reagan in the 1950s took a trip to England and disliked their socialized health care. That's what turned him from Democrat to Republican. We've been fighting this battle for a long time in America, and it's a bad moment. And so what we need to do is offer a better alternative, personalized health care, more doctors and nurses, more quantity of health care, and not government control, which does lead to bankruptcy as it does with everything else the government touches.
But gentlemen, it's just for the child of Soviet dissidents, where I'd say Russian dissidents, I don't want to put even Soviet in front of their name. Look, we escaped tyranny. We escaped socialism. We escaped communism. It is just so tragic and mind-boggling that all of these horrendous ideas and practices are being imposed on this beautiful country. It's just heartbreaking.
We're setting up the comeback. There was Carter, there was Reagan, so there's Obama. There'll be a comeback afterward.
But
Let's
if there's,
hope so.
well, wait a minute. If there's a comeback afterwards, is it possible to repair the damage that Obama is going to continue to inflict?
Well, you're asking a deeper question. How do we repair 100 years of progressivism? By the way, you mentioned the Constitution with great loyalty, and I support it 100%. My alma mater, Georgetown Law Center, has a constitutional law professor who declared we don't need to follow the Constitution anymore in the heart of Washington, D.C. And so the battle's deeper even than Obamacare. It's a belief in the first principles of the Constitution.
Yeah, this is the tip of the spear, though. It's the crowning thread,
Indeed.
as I call it.
Gentlemen, all good things must come to an end. We just have 2 minutes each. Very briefly, let's go to each of you. Final words of wisdom, maybe a warning, maybe a hint to our viewers of what they can do, or a little bit maybe even about your own plans and what you're up to in the near future, Howard.
Well, if you're conservative and watching this, I think conservatives need to catch up on the social media front. They need to get on Facebook, need to get on Twitter, need to get connected. I'm a recent immigrant into the Twitter universe, and I'm just really amazed and energized by the people that I'm meeting out there who are for the Constitution, for limited government, for low taxes, for our great traditions, for the Second Amendment. And people think they're isolated. They think nobody else.
Howard,
they
where were
ones.
these people during the election a couple months ago?
That's a good question.
Bob?
Well, if I could plug my book one more time.
Absolutely.
Good intentions. But seriously, the reason I wrote this is that, I've been writing novels for a while and screenplays, and I thought, I'd like to have something with substance. I'd like to have something that people can read. Thing is, we all tend to congregate, we all tend to reinforce our opinions. I know lots of conservatives, libertarians. Let's get a message out to the people who are on the fence, who don't understand what's going on, who are more likely to read a fun book, and at the end say, hey, wait a minute, that's where we're headed, and it's a little bit scary.
Absolutely. And Larry Greenfield, final words of wisdom. Go to the Buddha of knowledge.
Well, I think we countered the wisdom of Dennis Rodman and his negotiations with the North Koreans. Look, the Obama administration has turned out to be thugs that even some honorable liberals are now recognizing bully with mean emails and threaten journalists. We saw this with the way Obama treated the Supreme Court at the State of the Union, the way he treated the cop in Boston who was just defending a gentleman's home, the smears against the Chamber of Commerce, those dangerous people. So thanks for allowing me to be a Glazov gangster, and we try to get the truth out.
Larry Greenfield, Bob Zeidman, and Howard Hyde. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you on the Glazov Gang.
Indeed.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jimmy.
We'll see you next week.